Hello everyone, my name is Avneet Talwar and welcome back to my YouTube channel. On this channel, I discuss true crime documentaries and cases, and today's case is a very special one. It is because of this case जो मेरी जिज्ञासा है और my interest towards true crime cases and documentaries started. मैंने पहली बार ये डॉक्यूमेंट्री नेटफ्लिक्स पे देखी थी. I will mention the documentary name and the link if possible in the description box down below. The name of the documentary was American Murder, The Family Next Door. What was very intriguing is that जो इस फैमिली का पोर्ट्रेल था सोशल मीडिया पे वो काफी अलग था एंड जो उनकी रियलिटी थी वो काफी अलग थी एंड दैट इज व्हाट अट्रैक्टेड मी टू रिसर्च ऑन दिस केस एंड फाइंड मोर अबाउट दिस केस. So well, that's that. And before starting up with this case, I just want to give a disclaimer. This video is gonna contain topics about assault, murder, and it is gonna touch very dark side. So if you are someone who is not comfortable with such topic, I will suggest you to skip this video and come back when you feel that it's okay for you to watch such content. And if you are someone who loves true crime cases and documentaries just like I do, please continue watching it. This all started on August 13, 2018 in Frederick, Colorado, when a woman named Nicole Atkinson reported her 34-year-old 15 weeks pregnant friend Shannon Watts missing, who was wife of Chris Watts and mother of two young girls named Bella and Celeste. The police officers and Nicole were trying to reach Shannon via phone call, messages, and they were trying to reach everyone if anyone had any idea where Shannon was. And while doing that, they observed that Shannon's car was parked at her driveway, but there was no sign of her or anyone inside her home. Shortly after receiving a call from Nicole, Chris Watts arrived at his home. Before we dig deep into the story, let me talk about their backgrounds. Shannon had met Chris after her divorce. Her first marriage wasn't a long one. Chris and Shannon dated each other for 2 years and ended up getting married in 2012. They decided to move to Colorado in 2013 for a better standard of living. And later that year, in December, they had their first child, their first daughter, Bella. Chris started working for Andarko Petroleum in 2015 as a field coordinator. And in the same year, they had their second daughter, Celeste, who was also called as Cece. At that time, Shannon was working at Children's Hospital. However, she left that job. There is no specific reason as to why she left that job, but it is assumed that she was not happy. Later, she started her employment in multi-level marketing company. For example, Tupperware या Amway, अगर आपको उनका आइडिया है, शैनन कोई ऐसी कंपनी में काम करती थी. She was very good at her job and she was very active on Facebook. वो काफी regularly postings करती थी about her daily routine, about her products. It was actually a requirement of her job to be active on social media, but Shannon used to share about her personal life and she used to do mini vlogs as well. And Chris was often a part of her uploads. Her success rate was so high that she ended up winning a car from her company because of her high sales. From her Facebook life, one would always notice that Shannon was more of an extrovert one. On the other hand, Chris काफी introvert type के थे. Friends and family would assume that their life was going very well and that Chris was an ideal husband, ideal dad. He was always there for his family and he loved them. In May 2018, Shannon got pregnant again and she went on Facebook Live and announced this pregnancy. She kind of recorded Chris का reaction and many believe that Chris का reaction at that time was very strange. Back then people assumed कि वो शायद introvert है and hence he reacted this way, but the story was something different altogether. Shannon's company did send her and her family on a lot of trips. They went to San Diego in June and Shannon went live on Facebook in general, and she used to go live in general because they used to travel a lot and she used to record every moment that she could. In August, they decided to hold a gender reveal party. Later, Shannon and her daughters went to a 6-week vacation to visit family back at home. Though they called it a vacation, in reality, their family relation was going through a lot of problems. Neighbors even reported fights, loud arguments from home and even on their driveways. And post that, Shannon went on her 6 weeks vacation along with her daughters. It was during this trip that Shannon got into an argument with Chris' mom over her serving allergic food to her daughter, which could have gotten worse. It wasn't a hidden fact कि क्रिस के पेरेंट्स को शैनन नहीं पसंद थी. In fact, they did not even attend their wedding. While Shannon was away, उसने नोटिस किया कि क्रिस उसके मैसेजेस का रिप्लाई नहीं दे रहे हैं, उसे कॉल नहीं कर रहे हैं. See, understand this. Now, 6 weeks is a very long time, and if your family is away and your wife is pregnant, you would at least call her once a day and to check on her, to check on your daughters. But Chris की तरफ से कभी कॉल आता ही नहीं था. And this is why Shannon thought कि कुछ तो गड़बड़ है, कुछ तो प्रॉब्लम चल रहा है. Now what happened was कि इस 6 हफ्ते के दौरान क्रिस ने सोचा कि वो अपनी लाइफ को जिएंगे टू द फुलेस्ट, बट विथ अ वुमन नेम्ड एज निकोल Kessinger. Now, according to my research, it is said that it was Nicole who was first interested in Chris and they started talking to each other. The talks turned into flirting and the flirting eventually turned into an extramarital affair. It was on July 7, 2018 that Nicole and Chris had their first telephonic conversation, which lasted for 2 minutes at around 12 a.m. It was on the very same night कि क्रिस का सेल फोन कनेक्टेड ऑन डिफरेंट राउटर्स at different restaurants. On 8th July, Chris texted back to Shannon that he got home and he slept right away. कि वो थक गए थे and because of the heat and that he loved her. He just was trying to calm Shannon down. After she texted back asking if he was okay, she just felt that Chris is ignoring her. She even texted him that she's missing him a lot and Chris is not reciprocating the same way. Chris Shannon को text ही नहीं कर रहे थे. To which Chris replied that everything is fine and he was just under some work pressure. And to this Shannon replied, she wished कि Chris उनसे कुछ और बात कर सकते, कुछ ज़्यादा बात कर सकते. She was simply just missing her husband. On July 14, there is a phone record of Chris and Nicole talking to each other, and there is also a record कि at the same time Shannon के 4 मिस कॉल थे. Chris and Shannon had a conversation for a minute पूरे दिन में, and all the other calls from her were not answered because at that time Chris was with Nicole at a car museum. There are records of conversations between Shannon and her friend जहाँ पे शैनन के टेक्स्ट के थ्रू उसकी फ्रेंड ये समझ पा रही थी दैट शी इज स्ट्रेसिंग आउट अ लॉट टुवर्ड्स हर रिलेशनशिप चेंजिंग विद क्रिस. How he just ditched and her concern is growing daily about her marriage and that her family is falling apart. The love that he showcased earlier was now just a very formal conversation. And on that very same day, Chris told her that he did not want this baby. He feels that they do not have a spark anymore. Shannon उसे give up नहीं करना था without trying. So उसने क्रिस को suggest किया कि let's go to a marriage council. However, Chris ने इसे deny कर दिया and he said that he wanted out. On July 18, the record shows that Chris and Nicole exchanged a few nudes with one another and Chris created a secret folder in his phone where he saved all the images. So basically this application looked like a calculator, but it was more of a secret folder and that's where he saved all the nudes. On his computer engine record, it is said that Chris was searching for a vacation spot. On July 24, Nicole googled a man having an affair and said he would leave his wife, which means that she was very much aware that Chris was married. Meanwhile, Shannon is telling Chris about her feelings, how is she feeling, that she's stressed. And on the other hand, on July 25th, Chris had researched when to say I love you in a new relationship, and what do you feel like when you tell someone I love you. Now this is weird, like, because Chris and Shannon were married and it was a love marriage, so I am pretty sure he just knew how love feels like. But it's strange that he's googling how love feels like. So yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? On July 28th, Chris and Nicole went on a vacation to Sangoon. They stayed a night there, and there are videos of them enjoying over there. And on July 31st, Chris flew down to North Carolina to pick up his wife and daughters. They stayed there for few days, and the entire time Chris was focused on Nicole, and he was just cherishing all the memories that they had created. He was so distant कि even family members ने notice किया कि कुछ तो अलग ही vibe आ रही है Chris से. Shannon tried to mend things up, but Chris was just not interested. I mean, he was not even showing any affection towards her, and that was like a big red flag. The records even showed that that Shannon was trying to kiss him, and she was trying to be lovey-dovey, but Chris would just brush her off. On August 4, Nicole's search history showed that she was googling wedding dresses, and at the same time she was googling Chris and Shannon. And on August 7th, Shannon texted her friend that Chris is afraid of the new baby, and he's just changed, he's not the same man she fell in love with anymore. Just a few months back he wanted a baby, now he doesn't, and she was stressed, she did not want it to raise a family as a single mother. And on the other hand, her friend was just trying to comfort her, saying that everything is gonna be fine, give this a chance, give this some time. How friends, they try to just console, but Shannon के gut feeling में उसे समझ में आ गया था that her marriage, her entire family is in trouble. On August 8th was her 15th week appointment for an ultrasound, and the same month she even cancelled her gender reveal party. And when her friends asked, she said that Chris and her were not compatible. He had no interest in her, and it was pretty obvious that वो कोई effort लेने भी नहीं वाला था. And the same day, Nicole was Googling about marrying the mistress. Shannon found out that she was having a baby boy and she's going to name him Nico. She texted her friends saying that, again, that she was stressed and she really cannot afford to be a single mother. She really wanted to work things out, and that she really loved Chris. So much so that she purchased a book on marriage counseling from Amazon, and she asked Chris if he could just read that book, to which Chris even agreed, but we all know that he did not read that book. On August 9, Shannon and Nicole, her friend, flew to Arizona for a work conference. Before leaving, Shannon wrote a very lovely message for Chris, like a last attempt to save her marriage. During this trip, her friend noticed that her energy was quite low. They noticed कि कुछ तो गड़बड़ है, and she's kind of stressed. And on the same day, Chris had sent her an image to Shannon, and it was a very weird image. It was an image of both of her daughter, and उनपे उसने एक white चादर बिछाई थी. Now looking back, a lot of people assume that it was more of a warning sign which Chris was sending to Shannon, and ये बहुत subconsciously उसके mind में feed हो गया था what he was going to do. On August 10th, Chris asked his neighbors if they could watch over his daughters because he was going off for a baseball game, when in reality he was going out to see Nicole. Okay, on August 13, Nicole, Shannon ki dost, and Shannon were coming back, but their flight was delayed, and this was making Shannon more agitated because she was getting tired and she just wanted to go home. The delay was very long because they arrived at around 2 a.m. Nicole dropped Shannon home at around 2:45 a.m. At around 5:30 a.m. at neighbor's security camera, it recorded Chris's moment where he's seen taking 3 trips and loading something in his truck. The footage is very grainy, so clear nahi hai ki what is he taking, but the actions state very clearly that he was loading something and he took 3 trips. And on the very same day, Chris called Bella and Cece's school around 8:30 and said that they will no longer be attending school. So this all was very fishy. Meanwhile, Nicole, Shannon's friend, was texting her about her health and how she's feeling, because the entire trip Shannon was very stressed. She knew that Shannon was not well and knew that she had a doctor's appointment also, and wanted an update as to how did her appointment go. When her messages and calls went unanswered, Nicole started worrying and immediately went to Shannon's home with her son. She rang the doorbell and it went unanswered. She tried to knock the front door, it went unanswered. She's waited for a long time to get any response, but she did not. They had a camera at the front door which immediately usually alerts the house owner if there's any movement caught on the camera. Nicole even texted Chris asking about Shannon's well-being, and that she's getting worried sick because she's not responding to any of her texts, and ये Shannon का character नहीं था. Nicole even tried to reach out to her other friends and family just to ask or just to get an update कि Shannon कहाँ थी. On asking Chris, he said that Shannon went on a play date but Nicole knew that Shannon का appointment है, and she even noticed कि जो Shannon की गाड़ी है वो ड्राइववे में पार्क्ड है and Shannon अपनी गाड़ी के बिना किधर जाती नहीं है. So she knew that she was definitely not on a play date. Nicole even tried to open the front door, and that is when she noticed that the door was locked from the inside. So there is no way कि कोई अंदर से घर छोड़ के गया हो. And this is when the alarm went off again on Chris का phone, and he asked Nicole to leave as Shannon went on a play date and there's nothing to worry about her. That is when she tells him she is going to call the cops, to which he replies, do not get the cops involved. She informed Chris that police were on their way for a welfare check, and that is when he was on his way home. After a while, police showed up, but they could not enter the house without Chris' approval. So they called him up and asked for a passcode of the garage so they can open it up, and on asking, he said that the passcode doesn't work. After a while, Chris arrived, and there is even a footage of all these moments getting recorded, and it is seen that he is all calm, taking his own time to reach. On the other hand, you can clearly see from the footages that Nicole, Shannon's friend, was worried sick. When they entered the house, everything looked normal. Shannon's belongings were still inside the house, and while searching, Nicole finds Shannon's phone, and that is where she starts worrying more, because Shannon would not go anywhere without her phone. The bedsheets in the room were missing, barring that everything looked very normal. They were still searching the house when a neighbor told the police that he had some recordings and they should check it out. And that is the exact recording of Chris loading something in his truck and taking 3 trips. If you see the body cam footage, it is clearly visible that Chris was nervous at that time and he was acting out. He was out of his character so much that even the neighbor noticed, and he said, something is really fishy, you really need to check him out. But police gave a benefit of doubt because सबका reaction काफी अलग होता है when you get to know that your loved ones are missing. After the missing news spread, the news channel wanted to interview Chris. Shannon's mother had begged Chris not to give an interview. It looks very suspicious to give an interview right away, but Chris denied. Now at that time, Shannon की mom ने Chris पे कभी कुछ doubt किया ही नहीं था, and she said it for his own good. But Chris, being Chris, went ahead and gave the interview. I guess he liked playing the victim role. He liked getting the attention and the limelight that he was getting. He thought that the interview was very good, but thank God he gave that interview, because it was because of this interview it was so obvious that he did something, that he had something to do. During the entire interview, you can even see that he is smiling. He's just so confident. He thought he is fooling everyone, wherein he thought everyone is gonna believe his sob story, and this interview would actually get him the sympathy that he wanted. But that was one of the biggest mistake that he could commit. On the following day, it was reported that Nicole was googling whether deleted text messages can be traced. During the interrogation, Chris denied having any extramarital affair. Not only that, he said that he suspected that Shannon was the one who was having an affair. He further went on saying that the marriage was falling apart, they were talking about separation. The FBI straight up told him that he was a suspect and would he mind giving a polygraph test, and to which Chris actually agreed on. One of the employees from Chris's company had emails between Chris and Nicole, and he shared that with police, along with the GPS on Chris's truck movement of that particular day. And strangely enough, in that moment, Nicole came forward and confessed about the affair and told the police officers her side of the story. Meanwhile, Chris took the polygraph test and failed it miserably. That is when the police pushed him to confess about what he's done. And eventually, the police even told him about the drone shot of the place from the GPS that was provided to them. And in that drone shots, they can clearly see there is a bed sheet, and that actually belonged to Chris and Shannon. And there was a spot where there was fresh dirt, basically, which meant that something was recently buried. And after trying to push too much, that is when Chris asked if he could speak with his father. Chris's father asked if he had heard the family, to which he replied yes. And when asked and questioned further, he said that it was Shannon who hurt the kids and he just reacted out of rage. He said that Shannon arrived at around 2:45 a.m. and they started talking about separation. Talks turned into a heated argument, after the argument, Chris went inside Bella's room, and that is when he saw through the baby monitor that Shannon was struggling her kids out of rage, and he then strangled Shannon because he got so upset with what Shannon did and that Shannon killed his daughters. He then loaded his trucks with their bodies and headed out at his workplace. That is where he dug a shallow grave and buried Shannon's body. Later on, he confessed that he dumped both his daughters in a 20 feet oil tank. The oil tank had opening of 8 inches, and it is said that the bodies couldn't fit inside. So Chris had to shove up the bodies, and while doing that, some parts of the hair were ripped and it was found on the openings of oil tanks. During his entire confession, Chris showed absolutely no remorse and wasn't even crying at all. It was his daughters he was talking about. The only time he cried when he was talking about himself and how hard this had been on him. However, later the reports showcased that the daughters were smothered and not strangled, whereas Shannon was the one who was strangled. Chris's defense was it was because of Shannon that he had to kill her, because Shannon was the one who was trying to strangle the kids, and he was very furious and he just acted out of rage, and that is why he killed Shannon for hurting his baby. He just had to blame somebody and play a victim card and clear his path and gain all the sympathy. 6 November, Chris Watts ended up pleading guilty to multiple counts of first-degree murder. He was found guilty and was sentenced to 5 life sentences. He didn't get the death penalty, but he did get life in prison. In an exclusive interview with a news channel, he said that it has been very hard on him and that he still kind of wants people to think about him emotionally. Now, there are certain people who believe that even Nicole Kessinger was involved with the murders and she just got an easy escape because she came up and confessed everything. And a lot of people do believe कि Nicole का participation हो सकता है. What do you guys think? Let me know. And with this, our case ends. To me, it's a very surprising case because I think somewhere Shannon had got a very gut feeling about what is going wrong. In spite of knowing what is going wrong, in spite of all the red flags that she could clearly feel, she chose to ignore it. And I think that is where things went more down the rail. And I'm still very confused till date what made Chris so agitated that he had to kill his wife and daughters. I mean, if he wanted to start a new life, separation was always on cards. Nobody would have to die. And it's a very surprising turn of events, and it's very sad to see what the entire family had to go through. and just to play a victim card, that is something like an icing on the cake, is what I believe. Personally, this case shook me to the brim, because if you see the documentaries, you actually see, and if you see the actual Facebook videos of Shannon, you just cannot believe what has happened to her and her daughter. So yeah, that's that for this case. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I would love to have a discussion on this. And do subscribe to my channel if you are interested in true crime documentaries the way I am, and if you love to have such discussions about cases. And do hit the notification bell icon, because every time I upload a new video, that way you will be notified. And thank you so much for subscribing to my channel, and I'm very grateful for all the love and support that I'm getting. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time soon. Bye.